You at home, put down that PlayStation controller, put down that Xbox controller, because today we're going to be showing you the top 5 gamer choices for PC controllers.
And it's going to be done by members of the Toasty Bros team, including Jackson and I, who each picked out a controller based on their needs and what they would want to upgrade their setup at home. And we're going to have them review each one of their products as quickly as possible while also being thorough, so you guys can decide which one is best for you. But before we do that, we got to pay for these controllers somehow with a word from today's sponsor.
Today's video is sponsored, brought to you by Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is a wireless phone service provider with plans starting at $15 a month. That means you can get premium wireless without a premium price tag. Mint is amazing because they believe in transparency. There's no hidden fees, so you get exactly what you pay for and at good prices. Plus, with it being fully online, it's easy to shop around without a salesperson in-store haggling you to buy a tablet, a new phone, or even satellite TV. Mint also lets you choose the data amount that's right for you, so you're not stuck with a one-size-fits-all plan. You can select from 5 gig, 15 gig, 20 gig, or even unlimited. And with bulk savings when you buy multiple months up front, you're able to ensure that you get a plan that's perfectly suited for your needs. You can even sign up with your own unlocked phone or shop phones through Mint. The best part is, if you need to switch plans, Mint makes it super easy. You're able to sign up and activate within minutes with eSIM from the comfort of your own home. The best part is, no matter what route you take, Mint lets you keep your old contacts and your current phone number. With an unconditional 7-day money-back guarantee and plans starting at $15 a month, Mint's here to help break the traditional wireless cycle. Be sure to check out the links in the description down below to learn more or switch to Mint today. Big thanks again to Mint for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get back to it.
First, we gotta tell you what the criteria is. So number 1, you had to spend $60 or less.
And number 2 is your controller has to be compatible with PC, which is what we're doing here, PC gaming, of course. And controller on PC is a really good upgrade because there's a lot of games that keyboard and mouse work okay, but controller honestly may be a better gaming experience for you guys at home. So that's why a video like this exists. So let's not waste any more time. Jackson's gonna go first with his controller.
So my controller is the controversial name, 8-bit do or 8-bit do, you can choose at home. I have the Ultimate 2 wireless controller right here in my hands in the color purple. Now, not my first choice, you can also get it in black, white, and green. It's like razor green, it's kind of funny. And this controller right now is $50.99 on Amazon. You can also buy it from their website. 8-bit do has been around for a long time. They're huge in the controller game, and I gotta be honest, yeah, seriously, quit looking at like those PS5 DualSense controllers or the Xbox Elite controllers that are like $100+. I promise you, these are better in pretty much every way. So to go over some of the features, firstly, we have TMR joysticks, and you're probably wondering, what is TMR? It is better than Hall Effect in literally every way but cost. It uses less power, it's more accurate, there's less errors overall, so TMR is just the way to go. The only downside is it just has a higher manufacturing cost, so it's still kind of getting to the mainstream. We'll probably have some videos coming soon to the channel of some TMR keyboards even, and the best part is they didn't stop at the joysticks. The triggers are also Hall Effect, which I think is a really cool touch. So that means you don't have to worry about stick drift, trigger drift, any of those things where over time the sensors kind of get a little wacky. These should last like as long as the controller lasts until you break it playing Fortnite or something. Now you're probably wondering what all comes in the box. Well, number 1, inside the box you get a dock. So this controller, you can choose to charge it with USB-C. So that means that you can still play while your controller is charging, or you can actually plug the USB-C into your dock and then dock the controller. It looks really good too. It's a very nice display piece and it has multifunction. It charges your controller, and on top of that, the dock actually also acts as your dongle. So instead of getting like one of those little square rectangular dongles you plug into the PC, the dock is also your USB dongle. That's how you use it in the wireless mode. And speaking of that, this is tri-mode, by the way. It does have Bluetooth, you can run it wired, or you can run it with the wireless dongle. And one of my favorite features of this controller that I'm just gonna kind of skip to is they call these firing rings. So it looks really cool, right? Right now I got it like set to a kind of literally looks like fire. And if I click this here, I can get to some different modes. So my favorite mode by far is this. So every time I press a button or do anything, it literally shows on the ring what you're doing. I don't know if that's of any use at all. Like, I don't know if maybe a gamer out there can be like, oh, it's really good for the finals, you know, that like when you're shooting or whatever, you know, you can literally see what's going on. You can change colors and modes by pressing this little star here and then the D-pad, which is also, I think, a cool feature. Although it's a little wonky sometimes. Like, I feel like sometimes it doesn't change right away, but they do have a software, by the way. It's called the Ultimate 2 software, Ultimate V2, and it's actually really good. The software is solid. I don't like software, so I'm not gonna download it personally, but you can change a lot of things on there. In terms of the hardware, you're getting 1K polling rate, 1 millisecond response time. That's what they rate up to, which is actually pretty good for a controller, since those things are not often or maybe ever 8K. Now this does come with a 1000 milliamp hour battery. I have not had to charge this thing yet. I literally pulled it out of the box. I've played with it multiple times, never charged it so far. I have a whole DIY video on it if you want to see more in depth. And it also has these two little buttons on the back that are programmable. I'm not really a back button user, but I know a lot of you guys out there are, especially if you can handle doing some claw grip. And actually, I just now noticed it has two extra buttons right here by the bumpers, in between the bumper and the trigger. So it has even more customizable buttons than I even thought. And of course you do have some extra buttons up here. And I believe really you're looking at like start, stop, but I think one or two of these you can customize to change profiles and stuff. You have a pairing button on the back there. And then this is also a cool feature. So right now we're on analog mode. So Hall Effect analog mode, if you're playing like a first person shooter, you can switch it to tactile mode. Now, they're not those clicky, and I'm gonna say it, they're not the obnoxious clicky sounds. I know a lot of controllers, it's getting popular to make these all like mechanical. These are kind of clicky, but I don't know. I kind of vibe with this because I don't really care for clicky keyboards anymore. I feel the same way about my controller as well. And the last thing is that they just talk about how it's widely compatible, and it is. It actually works with tons of Android operating systems. It works with all the iOS systems. It works with your PC, and it can even work with some consoles as well, like maybe the Switch or a handheld, of course. But that's pretty much it. If you want to buy my controller, affiliate link down below, but I'm gonna go ahead and pull someone else in here to talk about theirs. I see a guy off the set staring. It's time.
Now for my controller, I have the Easy SMX D10 that you can get for $49.99 or $50. Now, I am no stranger to Easy SMX. I've been using the X10 at home for a long time. It's a pretty solid controller, but that's like a budget $30 controller. This one is a good step up because it has a lot of cool tech under the hood that really makes it a better high quality product. This controller features TMR joysticks, which as Jackson mentioned all the benefits, including low power draw, is a really good addition to a controller like this. It has a 1000 hertz polling rate, mechanical buttons, an included dock, dual mode triggers. You can either have the Hall Effect mode or micro switch mode. It has an easy, what they call POS, D-pad 8-way movement, a wireless compatibility with PC, Switch, Android, iOS, and more. And once again, coming in at $49.99. It's a pretty cool controller that I've been using for a little bit at home to play some games. You'll see some recordings on screen of me playing Jedi Survivor, a game that I've gone back and played recently. And I've been using this controller, and it is a good upgrade over the more budget option, the X10. And some of my favorite features, I would have to say, is the design. It's a really nice RGB design when I turn it on. Let's see if the RGB will glow. There you go. So you have some nice RGB on both sides here, which is pretty nice. One cool feature as well too is they have these little magnets you see on the inside, so every time the controller vibrates, they actually do a bit of a shift. I wonder if I could demo it. I have a video. I'll just show the video on screen. I'll show you guys a little vibration. When you vibrate, it does a little movement. It's cool. It's a fun little addition there. Again, those joysticks are really nice being TMR, which just improves the longevity and better battery life. For me, the battery life is probably the most important part because I really just want to be able to use my controller as long as possible. So having TMR, really nice there. The actual triggers are really nice as well. As I mentioned, it does have the micro switch adjustment where you can basically get like a rapid trigger mechanical effect, which for me in the kind of games I play, I don't really play first person shooters with a controller game like this. I probably will leave it on Hall Effect mode 99% of the time, but it is cool that on the fly, you can switch to that mode. One kind of weird nitpick that I did find with this controller is over time, just gaming on it for a couple hours, the actual joysticks tend to pick up like a lot of kind of junk just based on how they're textured. It's kind of like I don't even know how to describe it, like a little X pattern all the way around. And it does pick up some stuff just from your fingers, from naturally using it. So longer term, it could be kind of an annoying thing you have to clean very regularly, but just something that I noticed after gaming on it for probably in total about 2 or 3 hours playing Jedi Survivor. As I mentioned, there is an 8-way D-pad that does give you some good functionality here. It's kind of a rocker design where you can kind of just go all the way around, which I think is pretty cool. You see them on the premium Xbox controller, so cool to have. Not something that really is game changing for me, but a cool feature for those who use the D-pad a lot in gaming. Other features that I don't use a ton, but cool to have, is these extra buttons on the back. We have an M1 and M2, which you can program in game to do some cool stuff like changing your inventory or certain things in certain games. And lastly, with our Switch on the back, we have Bluetooth support, we have the dongle support, and wired mode. So you can swap between those three with the little switch on the back. Now, one of my favorite features about it is the dock that does come with it, which very nicely sits like so. It does hold the wireless dongle on the bottom, so if you just wanted to run the wireless dongle, you can. It is a USB-A, plug right into your PC and do that as well. But I do like the dock because it keeps it nice and charged, and I never really have to worry about charge. When I'm done gaming on it, throw on the dock and we're good to go. And it had some nice RGB as well, but I will say I kind of wish there was a non-RGB version of this controller because My setup at home doesn't have a ton of RGB anymore. I'm not much of a gamer when it comes to that RGB kind of stuff, so if I had one that had more neutral colors or maybe the option to choose a solid color rather than a strobing RGB that goes non-stop and kind of stands out in my setup, I would definitely go that route instead. But for those who have a typical gaming setup with a bunch of lights, this thing's gonna fit in very nicely. So overall, I think this is a really nice controller for the price. 50 bucks, it definitely is one that I'm gonna be keeping on my setup when I game at home, and it's definitely a cool controller to consider if you want some additional features, including that dock. And I think overall, Easy SMX is a really big competitor in the space. But let's bring somebody else in to show their controller.
All right, so for mine, I went a little bit different than everyone else. I think everyone else went Xbox controller, and I initially wanted to do a fight stick, but I think I've gotten all the ones that are under 50 bucks, so I went a PS5 style controller with a Vioratech wireless controller, or possibly the Nuevo. It has that written on there as well, so I don't know which one is exactly the brand name because this is a very classically third-party controller. It's got some cool things about it, though. It does have inbuilt lighting around the side, though I found I can't really turn it off, so if you're not a huge fan of extra RGB, this may not be for you. I checked out online, there's a wireless for DualSense checker. I was very curious if the actual touchpad would work, and as you can see here on screen, it does function, so do all the buttons. Just went ahead and checked them out. It also comes with a couple macro buttons on the back of it. All of these joysticks, or the two of them, are Hall effect. The only thing that's actually missing from a normal PS5 controller is adaptive controls on the triggers, and for those of you who don't use PS5, that is you have some games that your normal shot is just tapping this, but then it has a motor in there that can hold it back and resist you, so that if you press down all the way, you get some sort of charge shot, or maybe you're on your last bullet and it does it to alert you. It's an interesting control mechanism, and I like when companies do it. It's kind of like how old Nintendo used to be very experimental with what they make, and now they made the Switch 2, instead of a new Wii or some other weird sort of controller device. But it's one of those things where I don't like adaptive controls, so this actually works out great for me. But when we're looking at it, otherwise, you have your normal buttons you have for across the board, including the kind of built-in speaker, which I didn't think they'd have on here as well. And you have the mute button for your audio, because if you don't have a headset and you want to use this with your PS5, it should be compatible. And that means you could use this as your entire headset and all that. So gone are the days where you used to sit on your Xbox 360 headset and crack that thing 10 days after you first bought it. So as far as it goes, this is a pretty decent controller. It does, the buttons themselves, I don't think have any special call out or qualification, but let me give you a quick rundown of some other little specs here. Supports PS5, PS5 Slim gaming console. It actually, surprisingly, when I was on there checking for the touchpad to work, found out that it does have inbuilt gyro. So it has an accelerometer in there, so you can see here where I was just shaking it around randomly. It works, of course, on PC, supports Steam game platforms, and on any Windows system, you should be good to go. Built-in Hall effect joysticks, like I said before. You should be able to change the light bar to a few different colors, so if you do have a color preference, you should be able to get that. And then you have programmable back buttons on here. The actual connections, Bluetooth 5.0, dual mode, and wired. The battery capacity should be around a 6 hour of use with a 2.5 to 3 hour charge time. And other than that, it's the same dimensions of a normal PS5 controller. So if you're looking for a cheap option that honestly doesn't feel as bad as it looks, sometimes I think it kind of looks like your classic, you go to your friend's house and they hand you a Mad Catz controller, if anyone remembers those. It looks like that, but it feels like a PS5 controller with some extra dual buttons. So I want to try it out in some Street Fighter here later, because I didn't actually think about that when I do it, and I typically play on a fight pad, but these buttons actually feel pretty good. But that's really all I have to say about this controller, so go ahead and check it out using the links down below, and let's move on to the next one.
For my controller, I have the Flydigi Vader 5S. It is a new controller that just came out and has two versions. I have the base version that is wired only. If you spend $20 more, this was $60, so if you spend $80, you can get a version that is wireless as well. Me personally, I don't mind having a wired controller. I always play with my controller wired anyways, so it wasn't a big deal breaker for me, but for some people, it might be. We'll just start off with the cables inside. It's a very thick, nice braided cable. The only downside to it is black and blue, which I don't like, because if you look at the controller, it has this nice black bronze color scheme going on. So it just kind of clashes. I just wish it was a solid black cable, or if it kept up that color scheme to really match the controller. So to me, the controller does have Hall effect joysticks. TMR is the new latest and greatest thing. Hall effect is still really good though, so nothing to scoff at the fact that it has Hall effect. And one thing that's nice about it is it has these tension rings around the joystick, so you can manually change the tension
that it takes to, you know, move it around from 40 grams of force to like 120, I think it is, on the max setting. So it's actually like a pretty big difference to where you can just physically change it without having to go in any software and change your sensitivity. So the face buttons are micro switch mechanical buttons, the XYAB scheme, typical for Xbox controllers. And the triggers, they are linear Hall effect triggers, but they have a mechanical button right here that you can actuate, and it turns it into micro switch mechanical triggers as well, which is really good for first-person shooter games and other games where you need very quick actuation. But if you're playing something like, you know, a racing game where you want that linear movement, this is going to be way better for you. And then this comes with 6 additional programmable buttons, which is a lot for a budget controller. You get 2 on the back right here on the grips, you get 2 more right here next to the triggers, and then you have 2 right here on the front as well. And they don't really count these, but there's also 2 additional buttons down here next to the 3.5mm audio jack. One is a mute button, and I think one is a vibration sensitivity control button, but I think you can remap them as well if you aren't using a headset or if you're using this on PC. One thing that's nice about the Vader 5S also is it has vibration motors in the triggers as well as the grips. So, you know, if you like having the haptic feedback, there is a lot of it in this controller. Me personally, it was a lot in terms of vibration. I was playing Rocket League, Apex Legends, things like that. My controller is just vibrating nonstop, so I did have to turn it down. So that's one of the nice things about the vibration being adjustable, is if it is too much for you, you can just turn it down. Now I'm going to talk about kind of like what I feel about it and move away from the actual specs, because that's the main nitty gritty of it. So overall, the ergonomics of it are super nice. I really like the placement of all the additional macro buttons on the back and on the top right here. Everything is very accessible. The feel of the controller is super nice. It's a good size. It fits very snugly in my hands, but it gets the job done. The grip's nice. For $60, I'm super impressed with the build quality of the controller overall. While the tension ring is a little bit gimmicky, I personally kind of like it just because it's cool to be able to adjust the sensitivity of the stick without having to do a software. I feel like having the physical adjustment of how, you know, firm or loose the joysticks are is a nice feature to have, because with a lot of other controllers, like if your sticks are too loose, you can't really do anything about it. With this, being able to adjust it is pretty nice. Another nice feature is the rotary floating D-pad right here. This is going to be super nice for fighting games just because you get those directional inputs and you can do your diagonals a lot better. I went ahead and loaded this into a testing software for game controllers, and it has a 5 millisecond response time. Really good for a wired controller. It puts it up there with a lot of higher end things like the Flydigi Apex and other competitive gaming controllers. It has a 500 hertz polling rate. I do wish it was higher, but honestly the difference between 500 and 1000 isn't going to be a big difference. And then for the stick resolution, I tested it. It has a 1500 stick resolution. Stick resolution is going to be how many basically places are registered between the center of the stick and the outer edge when you're moving your stick side to side. So there's just more actuation points that are being registered. 1500 is a really good number. And also, like I said, this controller comes in at $60, but inside the box they included a $30 value, quote unquote $30 value. I think it's like $23 if you buy it online. Xbox Game Pass card. So if you do girl math, it's a $23 discount. Overall, for $60, I think this is a super solid controller if you can look past the shortcomings of it being wired only. It has a good amount of features, it's super solid, and I would recommend it. So that's all I have to say about the Flydigi Vader 5S, and let's go ahead and bring in the next person.
Okay, so my controller is the Easy SMX X20. So similar to Matt, I also have an Easy SMX controller, and this one, I also run the X10 daily, or I was at least, until we purchased this one. This one's $52 on Amazon on average. So it's about $12 more than your X10 budget controller. And this one definitely just takes a step up in terms of every category. First of all, I wanted to find a controller that was very tactile. Unlike Jackson, I love tactile mice and controllers. Those are my 2 tactile gimmicks that I really like. So pretty much every button on this controller is tactile. From the actual X, A, B, and Y buttons, you have your bumpers that are also tactile. And then with the switches, it also switches over to tactile on your actual triggers as well. You have Hall effect joysticks, which the tops are actually removable, so you can switch those out or change them in some way or replace them. I don't really know why you'd want to do that. You also have a tactile D-pad, just a traditional D-pad overall, and this also has RGB, and it's changed by the command button here. You can do all kinds of stuff with this command button. Basically, you can just hold it down, and then you can shift through a handful of color options and stuff like that. And then when the controller's on, you also have this really cool lighting from the inside of the controller to showcase your actual buttons. That's just a generalized overview of the controller itself. And again, you have options to switch these triggers over to Hall effect as well if you wanted to do a natural, more analog type of experience. Macros on this controller is kind of crazy. You obviously have 4 on the back here, 1, 2, 3, and 4 macros on the back. So if you like the back macro buttons, you don't like any on the bottom or the tops or anything like that, you have 4 on the back. I don't even really use macros, so I really didn't care for them. But other more technical specs of this controller, it goes up to a 1K polling rate, which is nicer for your higher end controller. Battery life is rated to be up to about 30 hours because of the higher polling rate and RGB. You can turn off the RGB to get a couple extra hours if you'd like, but it seems to be just fine based on my use cases. You also have a turbo button on the front of this controller, and I didn't really get the chance to use it, but I did some looking into the owner's manual of this controller, and I just really don't see much of a reason or a use case for it. I think you can just do like automatic, like repeating triggers or buttons for the controller. I don't know. That may be something you have to look into if you really want to learn more about the turbo mode of the controller. But to me, all I really cared about in a controller upgrade for me was, one, just faster controller in general, a little more customization if you want that, and then of course just more clickiness. So that's really all that was part of my research that I wanted to look for, and this one pretty much checked all the boxes. I'm a big fan of the fact that you can switch these over to, Mecha Switch or something. I like the clickiness for the triggers. That's the one thing that the X10 lacks. I will say, the only cons that I have for this controller, I wish that funny enough, they were actually on the X10. These buttons are really flush with the actual controller, so I do wish these were a bit more raised, and they can feel a little mushy at times. That's the only downside I have with it. And then on top of that, when actually clicking down to like sprint, they are a bit less responsive than I really want them to be. You can still get a good feel and click whenever you push down on them, but they just aren't as high quality as some of the other ones. This could be because of the fact that these are removable. So I don't know if that would change if you swap them out to something different, but again, I'm not going to ever be in a scenario where I swap these joysticks out whatsoever. The only things that I did not mention is, of course, it has USB connectivity. In the box, you do get a USB-C to USB-A dongle, and then you have your 2.4 wireless receiver. It is tri-mode as well, so if you do want to have it Bluetooth, you can hook it up that way. And then, of course, compatibility-wise, it is pretty much compatible with almost every single device out there, which is a nice claim to have. And then you also have some pairing or battery or something indicators. I honestly don't pay much attention to them at all whenever I use the controller, but that is pretty much the whole rundown of it. Shape and everything, it feels really solid. It's very close to an Xbox controller, just a little more curved at the bottom, so you have a more firm grip on it, especially with these like anti-slip grips on the side and the front here, which is nice. You get a nice strong feel in it. And the last thing that I want to mention is that it is pretty light. They claim to be a bit lighter than your traditional controller, and so if you're holding it for long hours, it's not going to weigh down on your hands for too long. So that's pretty much the X20 review. I do like this controller a lot. Do you really need all this kind of stuff for a controller? No, you'd be fine with a more budget option, but if you want the best tech specs and just overall experience out of a controller, this is one I would consider.
So those were some great options for gaming controllers, but let us know down below which one you like the most, or if you're already rocking one of these controllers.
And we made multiple videos like this where we have members of the Toasty Bros team come in and give their opinions on specific products at different price ranges. We did gaming mice, now controllers, and we've done tech roundups. If there's any other videos you want to see here on the channel that's related to PC gaming or any more, let us know down below. And as always, links in the description down below will be affiliate links, and they will help us out.
And we hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you check out our other 2 YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/ToastyBros, and do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
See you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.
Now at PCBros.tech, we actually have a bunch of these controllers. We carry Easy SMX and a few other brands.
PCBros.tech. Let's say you got your controller from this video, but you want to upgrade the rest of your gaming gear or maybe buy a gaming PC? We got you covered. You just go to Toasty Bros on checkout. You will save 3% on your next purchase. See you guys later. Bye-bye.